Hello, Rob from Fountain Pen Journey with a review of the Lamy Vista fountain pen. However, I am also going to compare all three of the Lamy Safari type fountain pens here. There is also the Lamy LX, which is a, if you like, higher end version of the Lamy Al-star. I just don't have that pen. I don't see the justification in spending the extra money. And I'll get on to the reasons in the comparison between these three pens later on in the video as to why I've not purchased one of those pens. However, this is a review of the Lamy Vista fountain pen, and I will compare it with the Lamy Safari and the Lamy Al-star later. So let's talk about the Lamy Vista. Well, what is it? What exactly is it? Well, it's a fountain pen in exactly the same style of the Lamy Safari, which is a very iconic traditional design fountain pen by Lamy, which has been around since the early 1980s. And the Lamy Vista, for most people, the only difference between the Lamy Safari and the Lamy Vista is going to be the fact that the Lamy Vista is a clear, transparent, colourless demonstrator type fountain pen. It's almost identical to the Lamy Safari. There are some other minor differences and one or two issues which, to be honest, I think Lamy could or should perhaps sort out with the Lamy Vista. So altogether, it's a fairly inexpensive fountain pen made of plastic, and it's pretty good quality plastic as well. It's fairly sturdy. It's not likely to crush or fracture like some cheap plastic fountain pens. The top has got this cross sort of, I suppose, Phillips head type finial. It serves no purpose as such, and there is a clip which is inserted into that finial up there. The clip is this chrome plated paperclip style, the same as the Lamy Safari, and these clips are they're a bit of a strange thing. When I first got into fountain pens, I could not believe how ugly the Lamy Safari was, and it still is in many views of mine. It's not an attractive fountain pen, but it is one of those pens that many people end up buying in their early foray into using fountain pens. And this clip kind of polarizes people. I actually tend to feel it a lot when it's in my hand, when I've got the pen uncapped. I don't know why people don't like it, but I can imagine, because I can't put my own personal thoughts on it, but it's a functional clip. It's secure, it slides on and off things very easily, and it's very firm. The pen itself, this clear, transparent, colourless plastic material, I don't know exactly what type of plastic it is, and these pens are usually available with medium steel nibs. Other end of the fountain pen, slightly frosted, recessed slightly, not a lot about it. So as we've discussed, we've got this cap which is cylindrical, and then the barrel which is cylindrical, however in cross section you can see it's got these two flattened, I'll try and get that on camera for you, it's got two flattened sides, and on each of those sides there is a recess cut out where there is an ink window, and I'll talk about that later on. On the barrel, screen printed I believe, there is Lamy in silver. Uncap the pen, simple, you can do this one-handed. I don't tend to push on the clip because I had a Jinhao pen which was very similar to this, and pushing on the clip actually broke the clip, the cap up here. So I tend to just do that. It's very easy, it's very secure, but also very easy to uncap. The cap has a cap liner, which is great because this stops the nib from drying out when you don't use the pen for a longer period, and I find that very effective. I don't generally have hard starts on any of these Lamy fountain pens. Now the Lamy nib is this winged steel nib. These are almost always medium. You can get fine, extra fine, medium and broad nibs, but usually when you buy this pen from a retailer you will find that the pen is supplied with a medium nib. The nibs are interchangeable. They simply slide off the feed and you can swap them for the broad, medium, whatever nibs you prefer. The Lamy Joy is another fountain pen which is a calligraphy pen, and those nibs are interchangeable as well, because you can get a 1.1 nib and things like that on there. The feed is plastic, black, unwinged. The section, now this is the same section as the Lamy Safari, so you've got this triangular style grip section. Basically there is a rounded portion underneath the section, and then these two recessed cutouts on top, which forces your finger and thumb and the finger underneath into this tripod style grip, which some people really like because it orientates your fingers in the correct orientation for holding a pen, but other people really dislike it. I also like it because it also guides you to where the nib is correctly aligned against the paper. It's quite a decently long section, no issues with the with holding this pen anywhere up and down here, and it flares out at the base so your fingers don't go too far down. There is virtually no step up. It's quite smooth into the barrel. There is a black plastic ring there, and you will also see that this feed is black plastic feed with the fins inside the section, and it would be an awful lot nicer if this was a clear colourless feed, because it would really match the pen. However, you can see that there is some ink in there, this purple ink that I'm using. Barrel, decent length in the hand, unposted, and it does post to produce a decent length of fountain pen. I don't write with these posted, I find them too long, a little bit back heavy, but unposted they're absolutely fine, very comfortable to hold and write with for long periods. And this barrel, as we discussed, we've got the ink window there either side, so 2 ink windows, colourless, transparent, barrel there with the Lamy logo. Barrel unscrews and gains you access to insert your Lamy. Bear in mind these are proprietary cartridges and converters, so I've got a Lamy cartridge in here that I've refilled with a different type of ink. I'll talk about that when we get onto the writing sample, but it will take the typical Lamy converters, the Z27 for example, the Z28. Now let's talk aesthetics. We've got a silver matching the clip, silver sleeve over the words escape me now over the sealing mechanism for the nib. And as you can see, we've got this blue bit in here. Now that is part of the cartridge which I've inserted. So once again, you've got a colourless transparent fountain pen with a black plastic feed, and you can also see the inner workings. Now as a demonstrator fountain pen, i.e. one that you can see all the inner workings of, it would be nice if these blue bits of plastic on the cartridges, and more so on the converters, because the converters, you know, you've got your black and red converter which would be visible through the colourless clear barrel, and it detracts from the overall look of the pen. I can understand seeing the parts of the pen, but when you've got the different colours of the converters or the cartridges, it tends to take away a lot of the aesthetics of the fountain pen. Now the good thing about the Vista being a demonstrator, of course, is that you can see really clearly the cartridge inside the pen, inside the barrel. And in there you can see sloshing around the ink, this nice purple ink. So it's great because you can really easily see the ink level in the cartridge or the converter, which kind of makes me wonder why the designers even bothered with the ink window on the Lamy Vista, because on this Lamy Safari, and this is the Umbra version, it's a beaten up version of the Umbra by the way, the ink window, because you've got this opaque barrel, you can't see the ink. However, you can see the cartridge there. There's no glass or plastic inserts on this, so you can't eyedropper these pens, but you can see the ink level inside there when you hold it up to the light. So that's the design feature of these ink windows on either side of the barrel. So the need to put them on the clear Vista is kind of, it made me think, well, they've just used exactly the same moulds, but they haven't, because you can see this Lamy screen printed silver logo here. It's just printed on, flat against the barrel. The barrel is flat. Whereas on the Lamy Safari, it's embossed. There is no paint or screen printing there, but it's actually moulded into the barrel, the Lamy logo, just on the one side. And on the Al-star, it's engraved. So, well, it's stamped actually. But the thing is, I mean, bearing in mind that the Lamy Al-star is a metal pen and these two are plastic, you've got somebody who's designed this and thought, you know what, we're not going to emboss or mould in the Lamy logo, we're actually just going to print it on there, but we'll leave the ink windows wide open and incorporate the ink windows as well. Lamy could have done an awful lot better with the Lamy Vista, because demonstrator fountain pens are really popular. They could have said, you know what, we're not even going to bother putting the ink window in here, we're going to make the barrel one piece and have it so that you can use this as an eyedropper fountain pen, i.e. you unscrew the barrel and fill the whole barrel with ink, put some silicone grease on the threads there of the section, and you've got a really big ink capacity, and you can see the ink sloshing around all the rest of it. So it was a really, really big missed opportunity in my opinion, and it's the one thing that really does detract from using the Lamy Vista, because it would be such a great eyedropper fountain pen if it had that ability to convert it to an eyedropper. But these ink windows, the ink's just going to spill out and they serve absolutely no purpose whatsoever. So there we go, that's the overview of the Lamy Vista. The Lamy Safari, identical, we've got the cross on the top. The clips, sometimes they are coloured. This Umbra version is black, it's black plated. You do get them in chrome. The more recent 2020 Lamy Candy colours, the special edition colours for 2020, they came with matching coloured clips with the body of the fountain pen, so mango, violet and aquamarine, which were quite nice features. The ink windows we've already discussed, and the moulded in Lamy logo there. Sections are the same. Do bear in mind that this is the Umbra, and therefore it comes with this black plated anodized nib, which is interchangeable. You could swap this out and pop it on your Vista if you so desired. The same section. Now this plastic is ABS, so this is ABS plastic, the same material that they make Lego bricks from, so you know how tough they are, and this is very tough plastic. I'm not saying indestructible, but it's, you know, pretty good. And of course you unscrew the barrel to access the converter in this case. Now you can see in this pen, this Lamy converter proprietary converters. So once again, Lamy ties you into using their converters and cartridges because of the way that they have these cutouts on the section where it inserts, and there's two little tabs on either side. I keep dropping pens. Two little tabs on either side which are designed to hold the converter in place. So you can imagine this silver, black and red converter inside the Lamy Vista, and it's, you know, it's not the prettiest. So proprietary Lamy converters and cartridges are a bit of a bugbear of mine. However, I do have so many Lamy pens, it doesn't bother me because I'm quite happy to buy the converters or even re-ink the cartridges with different inks. So I do have that ability. So the pens are identical. So the Lamy Al-star is an aluminium fountain pen. So in some ways it's going to be even more indestructible than these pens, being metal. However, you can dent and bend these pens if you apply too much force, drop them too hard and things like that. But they do have these cutouts for the ink windows, which are stamped out. Uncapping this, and you will see that the section of the Lamy Vista is smoky, but it's transparent. So you can see inside there just a bit. Same black plastic feed, same winged steel nibs, same sort of things going on with the cap with the chrome clip and black plastic insert on top. There is, however, a black plastic insert in the base of the bottom of the barrel of the Lamy Al-star. Now, I haven't got a cartridge in this. I don't want to do a writing sample for all of these. However, I will weigh these pens so that you can see the weight differences, which, bear in mind, one has a cartridge, one has a converter, and one doesn't have anything. So, you know, it's not scientific. So let's start off with the Lamy Vista. Capped. 19.2 grams capped. Uncapped, 9.9 grams. So it's a lightweight plastic fountain pen. The Lamy Safari capped, 18 grams. Bearing in mind this has a converter as well, so you know, maybe a weight difference there. 9.8 grams uncapped. So interestingly, the cap of the Safari, 8.1 grams. Cap of the Lamy Vista, 9.3 grams, and I'm suspecting that that may be this metal sleeve or chromium looking sleeve that's inside there. The caps are interchangeable as well if you're interested, though why you'd do that is not really clear. So let's cap that and weigh the Lamy Al-star. 19.2 grams uncapped. Whoops. 9.7, so very, very similar. The cap itself, 9.5 grams. So not a great deal in the weight difference of any of these three Lamy Safari style pens, which is interesting because a lot of people are going to go, well, I want a Lamy Safari, but I want a heavier pen, so I'll get the metal version, the Lamy Al-star. Really, you're not going to notice any real difference at all. Lamy Vista is actually, you know, a little bit heavier. So interesting to see those weight comparisons, though in day-to-day real-world use, you're not going to notice any difference. So let's do a quick writing sample using a Rhodia pad. I'll talk about the inks as well that I'm using in here. So this is the Lamy Vista to start with, featuring in this review with a medium nib. Lazy dog. There we go. And I'd say that these medium nibs are medium wetness. They certainly do have excellent flow. I've never had any issues at all with a Lamy nib or a Lamy feed having ink starvation or ink flow issues. They're really, really reliable writers for long periods. Really comfortable to hold. Nice, lightweight, comfortable pens. Fit well in the hand. This ink is KWZ Raspberry. Right, so we shall move on to just compare for a little bit of fun the Lamy Safari. This is the Umbra, which is basically the black stealth version of the Lamy Safari. There are a whole load of other Lamy Safari colours available, which, you know, if you want a coloured plastic fountain pen, a Lamy fountain pen, then the Lamy Safari, you really can't go too far wrong with it. It's a great pen. I will be talking about my opinion of the Lamy Safari for beginners towards the end of this video, which isn't too far away now. And this ink is another KWZ ink. This is Foggy Green. So, medium nibs, not a lot to really say about either of those. Lamy nibs are very consistent in their widths. You get a Lamy Fine, it's going to be the same as the next Lamy Fine nib, or the next medium nib is going to be the same as the next nib you get on these pens. I've bought an awful lot of these pens because I do collect Lamy Safaris and the Al-stars, and in all honesty, line width is identical. These are steel nibs, they're pretty hard, there's no flex in there, so don't try to squeeze ink out by trying to flex the nib. You're not going to get a lot of line variation with these nibs. I will say that Lamy, for the beginners out there, you may wonder why your brand new Lamy pen, and this goes for any of Lamy's fountain pens, but especially the Safaris, Vista and Al-stars, has blue ink in, and they recommend that you flush the pen before use. And you think, well, why have I got a brand new pen with blue ink in? And the reason being is that Lamy tests each and every single one of their nibs in their factory in Germany using Lamy blue ink. So they basically dip the nib and it's tested on a machine. There's a whole rack of nibs aligned on a bit of paper, and they're dipped in the blue ink, and they do this, and there's some optical gadgetry that analyses each nib and how it's written, and any nibs that don't pass the mark are plucked off the machine, and basically only the nibs that go through that quality control process end up on the pens. However, and this is where I'm going to say, is the Lamy Safari, Vista or Al-star the best fountain pen for a beginner? Certainly it's going to be one that you look at, it will be one that people recommend, but there are some occasional quality control issues. Even though all those nibs have been tested, they are mass produced in a factory like any other nib, and I have had a fair proportion of Lamy nibs come straight to me from whatever retailer I've used in the pen, they've been in the pen, and I've tried them, and they've been either scratchy, maybe a tad misaligned. I had certainly one of these winged Lamy nibs on a Lamy Studio, I think it might have been, and and it's actually had a burr on it, tiny burr that actually pinged off when I was writing, and suddenly the nib was smooth as anything. So there is some occasional issues. I'm not saying it happens all the time, and I do love Lamy's general quality control and certainly the customer care after sales service that I've had personally with Lamy. I know other people haven't had that. So the Lamy Safari, Vista and Al-star make excellent beginner's fountain pens, but there is this occasional nib issue, and I would say maybe 80% of the nibs that I've had from Lamy have been good, 20% haven't been. Excuse me. And they've been very easy to fix. I'm not talking about if you get a Chinese fountain pen, a cheap Chinese fountain pen with a really bad nib, and it requires a ton of nib work to actually get it to write well. Lamy, with their nibs, generally if you use a bit of micro mesh or use a brass shim to floss in between the tines, that sorts it out and no issues. But it can sometimes require a little bit of work, tiny amount of work, in comparison to a nib from a Chinese manufacturer, which requires perhaps quite substantial work. And by substantial, I'm talking several minutes, half an hour, 20 minutes maybe, trying to get the nib to write well. Lamy nibs never had that much of a big issue, never had a big issue with them like that, but occasionally you might need to tweak them slightly to get them to write pleasantly or nicely, or at least how you want them to write. So there we have it. That is an overview of all three Lamy Safari style Lamy fountain pens: the Lamy Safari, Lamy Vista, Lamy Al-star. Lamy Al-star and Safari are available in a whole range of other colours, including special editions, whereas the Vista is this clear colourless version, which has the ink windows, which really annoy me because this could have been a great eyedropper fountain pen. So I don't know whether anyone from Lamy will ever see this video, but if they do, please take note, because if you ever decide to do a Lamy Vista 2, which fills in these ink windows and enables this to be eyedroppered so that we don't have to use Lamy cartridges or converters, we can eyedropper the fountain pen. That would be brilliant, because you've got a real market for demonstrator fountain pens out there, and this would be absolutely one of the best beginners fountain pens. And I know that it's going to be compared to the Platinum Preppy, which is an awful lot cheaper, and other fountain pens such as the Kaweco Sport range. You know, there's other pens out there which beginners may choose, and I love the Kaweco Sport. I think it's an excellent pocket pen. The Lamy Safari, it's a different beast. It's more of a full-size fountain pen, which it's one of these things that I don't want to dissuade people from trying, but there are some issues occasionally with the nibs where I would not be so tempted to buy one as a present for somebody who's never used a fountain pen before, because if they take that out and take it out with the plastic wrapping or the box or bubble packing, whatever it is, and they write with it and it happens to be scratchy, then their writing experience is not going to be very good, and it may put them off. However, as it happens, these pens, I haven't tweaked either the nib of the Vista or the Safari Umbra, and these write absolutely perfectly straight out of the box. So I'll just talk about reverse writing, because sometimes that is something that you want to do. However, this is not comfortable or easy with this triangular grip section, because it's wanting to force your fingers into a different direction, but it is possible. It's a little bit, I would say, extra fine, but it's possible with these fountain pens, because I know some people do like to use that if they're drawing or using the fountain pen for fine writing or things like that. So you can see Lamy nibs do work reverse writing, and it's not overly scratchy at all, and writes very well. So there you have it, overview of all three types of Lamy Safari fountain pen and a review of the Lamy Vista. So thanks very much for watching, and I shall see you next time. Bye.